Okay, everybody, thank you. We are now on 5.2, SLRD board remuneration analysis. We have Monica Halitsky here to talk to us, advise us.
Good morning, directors. I'm Monica Halitsky, Chair Manager. This is a report following up to last month's committee of the whole discussion on SLRD board remuneration. The report provides additional information and analysis that the board requested to support amendments to SLRD Directors Remuneration Bylaw number 1501-2016. The recommended amendments aim to ensure fairness, transparency, and alignment with board remuneration best practices while supporting the effective participation of both directors and alternates. The report addresses several areas that were identified for consideration, including updated travel and meal reimbursement rates, expanded eligibility for expense coverage for training and intergovernmental meetings, remuneration and prep time for alternate directors, options for childcare benefit, mental health benefit enhancements, and provision of professional development expense reimbursement. To show the evolution of the board's remuneration structure, resolutions from the remuneration review undertaken in 2016 are also included in. It's a quick overview of the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks. I'd really like to hear more thank you for the work. I did mention incidentals to be considered for directors that are on overnight stays, which I don't see, which is okay. It was just something I put out there. But one I'm really interested in is the mental health, and when it says the additional resources available as well as options for. So if a new director or an existing director comes on and wants to sign up to the benefit plan with the SLRD, can you tell me a bit more about what the mental health benefits are? Like what that means? Is this like 2 hours registered clinical psychologist, or do you know it in that much detail?
I do, and so under the current bylaw, directors are eligible to enroll onto the extended health and dental plan.
Yep.
Current coverage includes paramedical services, which are up to $600 per calendar year, and that includes services of a psychologist, registered counselor, and social worker.
Okay.
So there's that, and also included with that is a separate third-party administered employee assistance program, which provides additional, it's short-term supports. So you get connected with counselor or social worker, and it is more of a short-term.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. That is only available for directors who enroll onto the program. It's noted that municipal directors may have that through their extended health and dental through their municipalities, so.
I'm not sure, or not you, sorry. I wasn't shaking my head.
But municipal directors can opt in addition to their.
Yes, I would need
okay.
to check on that, but potentially, yes.
Okay.
And it's a matching cost for the director? Or is it all?
No, I believe it's 100% coverage.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Vivian, can you go back a step to the incidentals that you're talking about? It's not meals.
No, it's just that when other organizations that I work for, like with Hydro or Health Canada and so forth, if you stay overnight in a hotel, there's usually the option to claim incidentals anywhere from sort of $10 to $20. Like there was I sort of remember it was $17.50 with Health Canada, and I thought, well, that's pretty rich. Like,
And what would you use it for?
it was just for the idea being of incidentals, so those extra costs, you know, the extra decaf coffee that you would have been able to make at home, or the shampoo you forgot. It was like the little costs that you incur when you're away from home.
Okay.
Working, and I mean, I'm neither here nor there on it, it was just something I put forward as another
Yeah.
thing to consider. I'm just mostly impressed, I'm really happy about the improvements for the alternates that are being recommended here, that was my main concern, thank you.
And then, did you have any other questions for Monica?
No, well, just perhaps that, I certainly don't remember being informed as a new director, but you know, I wouldn't have paid attention anyway, because I'm one of those fortunate people that has a pension with benefits, and so not interested, so I didn't
Right.
think about it anymore, but now I'm thinking of it in a more global, and I'm also thinking about it because of this committee that I work on provincially with Brian Frankel about mental health for elected officials, and so our benefits aren't bad here. But I'm hearing, first of all, I don't think a lot of the directors know about them. I don't know how well informed we are about them when we come on. So that's a suggestion for orientation, but also if the municipal directors are entitled to sign on to that too, that's a very valuable opportunity that most people don't need, but if you do need it, that's really worth its weight in gold. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Heather?
Just to note that decaf coffee and things, that is under the meals and expenses, so even if you bought like a decaf coffee at an IGA. you
If
could
I
probably
had
pay
the
that.
discipline to save my receipt.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
possible. I feel that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I have Sal and Jack.
Thank you. I've got a couple. One is the meals, and if we look at our what we do there, we've got, you can either do breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or you can do all day. Well, I don't think I've ever done an all day one, so I do basically just dinners, and the total of those three is $48, where the full day is $70. So I think we need to, on the individual ones, bump them up so that they equal a full day. So, such as an example would be breakfast $15, lunch $20, and dinner $35. And that gets away from having to do receipts. I don't actually do receipts, so I just put in for that $22 dinner one, where you can't buy dinner for $22 anymore.
No, you can't. Unless you're going to the McDonald's director.
And the other one I've got is there's no mention of gravel roads in anything in here, where the gravel roads are quite a bit more than for mileage. And for the area E director, whoever it may be, there's a lot of gravel road that we travel.
So the current expense allows for it, so would you suggest just keeping it as it is?
Yes.
Monica, is that okay to do?
Yeah,
That's the intention.
It is
Okay.
currently in the bylaw and it's reimbursed at 1.5 times the current kilometer rate.
Yeah.
That's all. Thanks.
That's it? You said you had a few.
No, just two.
Okay,
Can I get clarification on the meals, just on that section? And just some clarification on the gravel, no intent to change that, always intended to keep that. But on the meals, can I get some clarity? You're saying that, and I'm just going through meals, we have aligned meals with CRA. And what that means is we won't be in this position where $12 for breakfast in 2008. And we're still there now. So now it'll always change every 6 months as CRA reassesses it. But can you point out where in the meals, I just want to get clarity of what you're saying, where in the document that's outlined, just so we can know
says-
where.
it's page 13 of 50. Meal expenses are reimbursable. There are two methods. Current rates are $12, $14, and $22. The other option is you can go with your actual receipts, but it'll only covers up to that maximum rate.
So I believe that the recommendation is that, and I'd like clarification from Ms. Hilitsky. The current rates are 12, 14, and 22, but the recommendation is to significantly increase that rate to not be that
Yeah.
number.
It says
48.
it is recommended that meal rates under this bylaw align with CRA rates. So then it's no longer a dollar amount that's code in this bylaw, that it's just whatever the year, whatever CRA is doing, that's what we do. And that's a far clear, and then lots of organizations are doing that.
Yeah.
So then you don't have to amend the bylaw every time your amount changes.
That's the intent, so I'm trying to figure out, Director Demare, is there a change that you need? You're $38 the old number and you're okay with the CRA rates?
Well, we don't know what the CRA rates are for
It's not in,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
that's fine.
If we had that information, then we could see what it is.
That's a great point, and the report did not include a link to current CRA rates. Is it in here somewhere? It's under.
isn't.
Do you have that off by heart?
Off the top of my head,
$9 per meal, including taxes.
It's different for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's significantly more.
23 per meal.
It says, I mean,
We can pull it up. How about?
Yeah,
we have two
let's come
takeaways
back to
right
it.
now. One of the is confirming the CRA rates. The other one is municipal directors and benefits.
Yeah. you go ahead.
I think just on this, I think if I may, what Director Demare is referring to in the actual expense form, there's a 24-hour per diem allowance, $70 per day. And I think that's where his calculation is coming from. I think that is intended to account for the incidentals that Director Birch Jones, like that difference between the calculation of the 3 meals plus an incidental. And so whether we just break that out or we continue to update the day rate, I think is maybe a more direct approach.
Great. I love a bylaw that doesn't need to be amended, but stays current. I'm a big fan of tying it to someone else's calculations. That makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
So we do have approximate answer here for meals on CRA's website. Breakfast is $24.90, lunch is $25.20, dinner is $61.85, meal allowance total is $111.95. There is an incidental expense allowance that we didn't include in this unless the direction is to do that. And CRA does have an incidental expense allowance of $17.50. There has been direction, if that's direction, we can consider adding that. The one discussion we have is some organizations require receipts at that high of they say, you can do up to 111, but we always want receipts.
Mhm.
And then they say, if you'd like a per diem, sometimes it's a percentage of that. So if you just want straight cash per diem, then sometimes it's 75% of the total. If you would like the total, provide receipts.
Go ahead.
Thanks for the report. Well, the last time we did this, it was one of our main focuses through the chair was simplicity and user, like that didn't create issues for staff management. Do you know what the changes mean, if anything, to the simplicity of operations between the board and staff? Does it get any more complicated, do you think?
All the recommended changes, or are you speaking to any specific one?
No, just the whole thing. Like, are we in a more complicated position, or is it simpler?
I think there are some elements that are being added, so it will add some administration, such as the childcare benefit potentially, and the I think it's really just the childcare benefit, and everything else, there's already a budget established for it. We have processes in place. I may also defer to Director McDonald's on that in terms of the administration piece, but I don't think anything that's being calculated is going to increase administration too much for the recommended change.
The 6-month CRA meal rates, that will be a little bit of an increase, but I don't think it would be unmanageable.
Those are more complicated to manage.
No, just to update them every 6 months to
I see.
make sure we do that.
Yeah.
Cause it's April and October, they update.
That helps me a lot, thanks.
Thank you, Jenna.
I just wonder if we can go through the various. If there's a few that require or are asking for board direction. So I just wonder if we can go through the various proposals. One
Yeah.
by one.
Yeah. Let's do that. Okay, starting from the top.
I think, yeah, like the travel expense reimbursement
Travel, yeah.
rates, which I think are good to go.
Yeah. Because again, that won't be a dollar amount in the bylaw. This will be tied to the CRA allowance rates. And it's really helpful to see what has actually been claimed over the last 3 years, just so that we have a good idea of what it has cost us and what it could cost us. This shows that people aren't submitting their expenses as regularly as it goes down. Okay. Meal reimbursements, we've talked about that. Okay, automatic authorization for reimbursement. How do we feel about not having to submit and just having, because this will be more staff time for staff to know where we've gone to meetings and submitting your expenses for you effectively. Go ahead, Jen. And I'll come to you.
That's an interesting perspective. That was not how I had read this. That staff would just be submitting it on our behalf. It was just that they would not require, as we do now, they don't require board approval.
Right.
So you'd
Sorry.
still be responsible for submitting. But I think that this makes good sense and is
Yeah.
aligned with current practice, that
Yeah.
these don't need to come to the board for
Right.
approval, and I think that that makes good sense. I think the increase in scope here from what we currently have are the training sessions, strategic planning, town halls, and intergovernmental gatherings that are approved by the SLRD, and I would agree that those should just be
Mhm.
all included, without required board
Yeah.
approval.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm someone that doesn't submit just because I find all that process frustrating. And so I wonder for staff to, like, it does, from my mind, the more we can, even if it means reducing from the CRA rate a bit, just assuming, I'm going to this thing, you get those costs and it's just done. There's no filing, there's no staff double checking and back and forth. It's just, this is the automatic per diem.
Mhm.
Does that keep it easier for us and staff? And, hopefully the amount of staff effort saved makes up for the fact that the per diem always just goes, I don't know.
Yeah. Go
I'm
ahead.
just unclear how staff, like, that requires staff to keep track of who's going to which meetings and like on what basis, like. Even
So-
though like we have attendance generally with meeting minutes,
Yeah.
it feels like who drove, who carpooled, like.
Right.
There's just, I feel like too many variables to request.
So
If we
here's a
don't
situation
typically
that
get
I've been in where we had, and this is a long time ago, but if there's a director that doesn't see the need to claim the costs of going to UBCM, and they pay for their hotel and they go and they do all the things because they don't need the reimbursement and they just don't want to deal with the hassle of claiming a $500 hotel night, that's fine. Except that then sets up our budget. Well, we didn't spend it last year, we didn't spend it the year before. Now you come into a situation where you've got directors that need to be reimbursed. And it looks like they're nickel and diming or even just they're claiming expenses that we should be paying. And you don't want people to not be able, the whole purpose of this exercise is you don't want people to be unable to do the job. I can't take a day off work and go to UBCM because I can't afford to. Or that it's so out of whack with, the cost of the hotel, et cetera. So I think it's important to come to a middle ground where even if you don't need to claim the expenses, they're being accrued so that the budget is accurately reflecting the cost of doing business. Mike.
Push back on you in this way. Does the math add up to that much that it's gonna affect what we decide to budget every January for like how many people? Cause I'm kind of like Chris, I'll submit for the big ones. At the village.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, my meals and stuff like that, I often find the receipts months later. So, yeah, so I mean, I hear what you're saying, but you know, back to the simplicity thing here. If somebody has the means to pay their own meals or they don't care or whatever, then I don't know that it affects our yearly allotment that much. We should, if so, then I would suggest we just leave ourselves a little buffer every year.
Sure.
And add a percentage. I think the goal of this is to make sure that people are fairly reimbursed, like you said, so that they can afford to do the job. And that it's simple. Like, to me, those are the two main goals to get to here, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that people are not, those that can't afford to go out of pocket, shouldn't go out of pocket
Right.
by any means. And that it's not a whole complicated mess. Right?
Yeah.
So,
I would just say that we made an amendment yesterday to move $378. So our budget is pretty precise. So go ahead.
Thank you. That, I did question that. It was part of the COVID restart rules and.
Of course, I'm my point.
But I totally get it. I was like,
It's
yeah,
not
$50.
a round number of $50,000.
Yeah.
We know every dollar that's spent, which I think is good.
For sure. I just wanted to note that when in the budgeting process, there's no assumption made that that person pays for their hotel, so we won't find. We consistently budget for everyone who's eligible under the remuneration to go to UPCM for those expenses, which is increasing because hotel costs are increasing. I would say on a conversation of simplicity, when you see recommendations or when you see the option to increase the stipend instead of, that's where you're gonna find simplicity.
Okay.
So if you increase the stipend and say specifically, this increase is to cover those costs, like I wanna meet with the library and it's not been a motion of the board to meet with those constituents, knowing that that's work that elected officials do. You can record that in the stipend, saying it's going to be increased by $500 to cover those costs. And the other thing for simplicity would be the per diem. Now that is a highly discussed simplicity move where you say, we're just going to give you 75% of CRA every time. And that sometimes constituents would like to see the receipts and know where they're going and what that's being spent on and when it comes to meal allowances. And that is more administration, but if you're looking for simplicity, it would be, let's not bother with receipts, let's do 75% if you're gone for the day. So those are and allowances. When you see the word allowance, that also creates simplicity, similar to the cellular allowance that we did internally, where I was going through cell phone bills, which are 5 or 6 pages long every month for 11 employees. We changed it and it's now an allowance. Every week, there's an allowance that covers. Now, those things are taxable benefits but the benefit to the organization is a lot less administration.
Yeah. Okay. Are we moving on to the next topic? Which is vehicle insurance.
It's on the non-SLRD ordinance meetings.
Oh, sorry, I was treating them together.
Which page are you guys following,
So we're on page 14 of the committee of the whole package, 14 of 50.
okay, so you're just, okay. All right.
I did want to note too, with the automatic authorization or the new list of meetings. It's not laid out there, but there is the option of increasing the stipend to get rid of that. To have that simplicity.
Yeah.
Because that is a new list of types of meetings that would receive automatic reimbursement. So a little bit more administration there. And so for those automatic authorization for reimbursement of eligible expenses for that expanded list of meetings, as well as the non-SLRD organized meetings, that rolling it into the stipend may be a more simplistic option.
Yeah. Okay, Jenna?
I appreciate it might be more simplistic. My sense is that it's actually not that much more administrative than we're currently doing. The difference is just that it doesn't have to come to the board. So these expenses are still being reviewed and incurred. It's just whether you need board approval to process them. Is that the simplification? That's the simplification that I'm looking for.
If it's non-SLRD organized meetings, no, that would still come to the board. If they
So
wanted
there's two different
reimbursement,
criteria here. So the $4,000
My recommendation about
would
for
be
the
to cover all
SLR.
the meetings that are SLRD, so training, strategic planning, Nuquan 12. Right? And then the next list is the going to meet with wood fiber LNG or the library or bad example.
So I personally think that for SLRD meetings, I support what's in here if it requires an additional budget component for regional expenses, electoral expenses. I don't think it needs to come to the board. I still think it requires expense to be submitted. And then I think for the non-SLRD organized meetings, I'd love that into professional development, and I wonder if we can just like allocate, not necessarily a stipend, but an amount that is available to each director. And they get to choose how they may want to spend that every year. Like, so in the district of Squamish Municipal Director has a $3,000 expense. Basically, to cover professional development meetings that they see as important to you. And then they just submit expenses accordingly.
And you can't go over that $3,000.
If you go over, you have to get requests from, you have to get approval from council.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my thought about the meeting with external organizations where it's not a board directed thing is like, I see that as part of just the board compensation, and we do have a higher compensation for area directors recognizing, in my mind, a larger geographic distance, so that covers that piece. I would find it. I do find it a bit strange that we would have a special expense thing for external org.
We all agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes it simple.
Yeah, clarity, was the agreement to increase the stipend to cover it, or was the agreement?
We
to
haven't
leave it as
settled
is?
on that yet. I haven't heard consensus that we want to increase the stipend versus having a expense form each time we go to strategic planning. Vivian.
Just the problem with that is, at least mostly the meetings that I go to, there's usually a meal provided, and so it's only if the mileage was really high that I would even think about claiming an expense, because I mean, and it's like when we come to these meetings, we know we're gonna get lunch.
Yeah.
So we're not claiming the per diem all that often,
Right.
at least in my experience, so you just claim for what's reasonable and what happens.
But for when you're here over plan your dinner.
Totally.
And so does this $4,000 capture
More
that?
than, yeah.
Okay. So what do we want to do on that? Increase the stipend or keep the expense policy? Anyone want to make a motion? Then we can just move it, we are not
Keep the expense policy.
on the travel for SLRD events, meetings, etc.
Training.
Training, the list that's here, the expanded list, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
And yes, it does not need to come to the board each time for approval. And that's for both area directors as well as municipal directors. Okay? I see consensus. Awesome. Anyone online want to add anything? I want to see, I don't want to miss Sal or Paula.
No, I'm good, but a lot of the functions that we go to, especially for the per diem, like I said, I've never used it.
Okay,
And it's just whatever meal that I have to buy on my own
right.
that I submit for.
Yeah. And I think that's what this does, is it keeps it. I'm really glad we're having this conversation though, because I think it cracks open things that people may not have understood. I sure have had to ask a lot of questions, and it's nice to just have this written in a policy.
Can I ask one question? So for you, as our chair and getting around to different places, does this cover this for you? So. Okay.
So as the chair, then I'm probably submitting a monthly list of all the things I've done on behalf of the board as an expense form, right?
Yeah, this specific, as I understand, we're talking about the SLRD organized meetings
Yeah.
and not about the other ones.
Right, yeah, we haven't got to the
We haven't got to that one,
non-organized.
okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we, all right.
Yeah.
Just making sure. that-
Yes. But yeah, like every time I come up here to sign checks and
Right.
that would be under this policy. Cause that's SLRD work, or is that not?
That's a very interesting question that has not been considered.
Right,
And we can take that away to ensure that it's a remuneration. My interpretation of the bylaw would be that it's part of the stipend that the chair
That the
receives.
chair
that's
receives.
in addition.
yes,
However, if we can open that up, 'cause a lot of things are being opened.
okay. Okay. Moving on to non-SLRD organized meetings, training, etc. Do we increase the stipend by $500 or another amount as determined? And this would serve as an additional remuneration recognizing fluctuating meeting expenses.
Wait, wait, wait.
We are on page 14 still, near the bottom of,
Eligible, non-SLRD organized meeting.
yeah,
Isn't that the one, didn't we just agree on that a couple minutes ago after Chris's comments?
oh, yeah,
That's the one we all know.
500, we're gonna submit.
yeah, so we're keeping it.
Meeting expenses. Okay, I just have to remember not to submit expense claims on top of this, right?
You're gonna submit.
But the decision is not to increase director stipends.
Right.
It's just assume that this is part of the work that we do.
Okay, good, excellent, yes.
Okay, so going to a library meeting, going to a community event that is organized by the whoever's is not eligible for reimbursement.
Yeah, good,
We're all
that
there?
makes sense.
Nor
Are we there?
Thank you, and with that direction, I would appreciate if we can put that clarity in the bylaw, because this is
Yeah.
probably the biggest topic
Yeah.
that comes up
Yeah.
every couple of months.
Yeah.
So there's no increase to the stipend, it remains as is, and the current stipend covers all other costs that have been directed by the board for this to represent that meeting.
And for additional clarity, if I'm going to a meeting with the library director in Squamish. It's covered under my stipend for my time. I'm not covered for meals. I'm not covered for mileage.
You can't get mileage?
And I think that's wrong.
You have to
Okay,
make an application for that, you have to do a claim.
so then I should claim for that to the board.
Travel expenses.
The travel expenses, not the day cost. And not.
Mileage should definitely be covered.
Okay, okay,
Over
So-
80 kilometers, the total, on a day, right?
But just for clarity, I think in my mind, for non-SLRD, what you're talking about is only appropriate for the chair as the spokesperson for the organization. So in my mind, the rest of us shouldn't be claiming mileage to the library board thing, but maybe chair should or could.
well,
And
that's the
by,
question.
I agree, sorry, I'm talking out
Yeah,
of
no,
turn, but I don't think it should be for us, but I do think you guys are going to different things that represent all of us, and I believe that you should be covered for your meals and mileage, no matter how far it is. As a.
Okay, so we're gonna have a special rule for the chair.
Oh, well, I think
I mean, that's okay with me, but we should just be clear about it.
Well, it's not a special rule, it's pretty typical, like.
No, but the EA's, it's 80 kilometers plus, is when you get mileage. That's what
Right,
she said.
and then there's been a couple of squabbles about that.
I think that there's. I have just clarity. I heard someone say for non-directed stuff. If it is directed, it's still a part of the regular job. Why would we be covering additional pay even if it's a directed meeting? Like, that's part of the job, right? You're to attend meetings directed and not, and that's the same stipend. Same wage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wage, yes, expenses, I think are the things that are in question.
So
I don't
you're
understand
driving-
why we're separating directed and not directed. It seems to me if we're going to meetings, we're going to meetings, and I think that. I'm not sure I agree with Director Pat McGill on just the chair, because. I think there's a lot that electoral area directors do that. Should get mileage for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's,
I do.
if it's over 80 kilometers.
It's just
in a day.
us that don't.
But I think what,
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm better now.
You know what, I'm treating this as like a roundtable because I feel like. Let's just have the conversation. So Mike and then Jenna and then Chris.
yeah, I think the idea was, I think we're all sort of saying the same thing here. Mileage is covered.
Yeah.
Directed or non-directed for the ADs or the chair, or if you go to new, or C to C.
Yeah.
In Braylorn, then I think that mileage should be covered. I think that's covered by all this. So it's for everybody. Mileage is covered for directed or non-directed.
Over 80
Over 80
kilometers. per day.
kilometers. I don't know if that wants to be up for discussion, but as it stands now, it's over 80 kilometers.
Work.
Can I get clarity on what the over 80 kilometers is? Because I think the expense form actually allows you to claim under 80 kilometers. It's just,
That was the squabbles were.
We put that in 2016, that number, and that was just a number that came out of
Tony's not here.
discussion, but I mean, you could get rid of that number, just say you get paid for your mileage.
Except
Can I see
we
clarity
only
from
drive
staff?
around our towns. This is what it was. It's like, so am I gonna start like bringing in
No,
expenses?
Don't do it.
Cause I drove to Creekside. So we decided, because 80 kilometers, we
Like,
did
I
a bunch
was
of
like,
math. It was very sort of technical math that we did about how far it is from Darcy to Whistler. And so I think 80 kilometers makes sense. I don't know why we
I'm
play
gonna
with
go to
that.
Sal, who has the furthest to drive.
I think Heather had something she wanted to.
So I just heard Director Stoner ask for clarity from staff, so if I could.
Okay.
Help with that. We are talking specifically about the non-directed. I think we've moved on from the
Yes.
directed, which includes that 80-kilometer conversation. So the
Yes.
non-directed ones, there's no coverage of anything unless it goes to the board right now as a submission. This section is what we're talking about. So are you saying you'd like to apply? Directors can now send an expense and they're covered by decision of the CAO. And from that perspective, that puts the CAO into a position which can be uncomfortable, where we are deciding whether or not and WLNG is covered and the library isn't, or vice versa. And it's a bit where we're deciding on reimbursement to a group that also decides on how the CAO is paid. So it puts it in a uncomfortable position.
Well, we're
what's
not
proposed-
considering the who is going to approve it right now. We're considering the what is going to be approved in a non-directed travel expense.
I think the main
Which
thing
then-
for consideration is automatic authorization. So those expenses are eligible for reimbursement. It's just current processes has to get brought to the board
Yeah. Yes.
for
Okay,
approval
so
by the
we're not
board.
changing the what. So I decide that I'm going to a farmer's market in Braylorn because I've been invited by the committee to come and see the farmer's market. Am I me as the chair or me as a municipal director? So I don't want to get into every possible, and I do see Sal on the screen. I'm gonna let you finish your thought, and then we're gonna go to Sal. But I would like to find some kind of language that helps us understand what these expenses look like.
And this is where I'd like to go back to my proposal of, we have just kind of like an expense account for other work, whether a director chooses that it's professional development, that they need to go attend a meeting on behalf of a community association. And then they know how much they have every year. They can choose if they want to max it out or not, but it gives them some flexibility and independence to do the work and have some coverage of those expenses. But to me, that fits everything from UBCM to local government associations to regular meetings as they see fit.
Okay. But
I think the one thing that, and we talked about this way back when Yeah. I think the one thing that we need to make sure gets covered is your mileage. When you go to meetings, and it doesn't matter whether it's, like, I come into the Pemberton Valley Diking District meeting. I'm a representative of the regional district.
Yeah,
I'm on that, so I go to that meeting.
Yeah.
And I put in mileage to go to that meeting, don't put anything else,
right,
but I put in mileage.
Yeah.
And I think if you go to meetings, you're invited to meetings by, an organization or whatever, you're going there to do regional district business. You should get your mileage, and then whatever else it is whatever it is,
Yeah.
but mileage to me is with the cost of, vehicle maintenance and all that stuff, you definitely need to get your mileage.
go ahead, Heather. Or Monica,
I wonder, are you providing clarity on if you're appointed to a committee?
Oh, no, just on the mileage piece that, in the bylaw, it's transportation on regional district business for EA directors only. EA directors are entitled to their mileage for round trips driven on regional district business in excess of 80 kilometers.
Exactly.
With mileage paid based on the rates.
but if Jack is appointed to the Fraser Basin Council, which he is, and he goes to Chilliwack for a meeting,
Which I did.
I'm his alternate.
It's automatically covered because they're assigned as.
'Cause that's
And
it.
same with PVDD,
okay,
Russell's expenses are automatically.
There's a community meeting at Britannia Beach. And that we feel that we should get attentions, so municipal drivers are driving, or directors are driving from wherever.
right.
That's
Armin
not
and
covered
Christine.
as such, right, cause it's just EAD.
So we should
There's
be
no
including
change.
them if they're coming as an SLRD representative.
It is-
So we want to update the bylaw to include municipal directors on appointed work.
It is already that.
No, it's not. Municipal directors were not covered to come to the Britannia Community Association when Armand and Chris came with us to that public hearing.
Yeah, pardon me, but that is now public hearings, it's in the second section, the
Okay.
first section, so we cover public meetings.
Okay.
Appointed to a committee, already covered, doesn't have to come to the board.
Okay.
If it's the Britannia Beach, the recent one, it's
Yeah.
their association meeting, they'd like to show up. Currently submitting the expense to the board is how you get that covered.
Not municipal.
Yes,
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 municipal
and
director
can
too.
submit the expense to the board. If it's an ad hoc,
This is why we're having this
I
meeting.
know.
Oh my God.
Anybody can ask for their expenses to be claimed.
Okay, I thought what I just heard about the EADs,
It's down.
Automatically through the bylaw. So an EA director, if they traveled 100 kilometers to Britannia Beach to attend a meeting, they submit that to the CAO
To
and it
a meeting.
gets automatically approved. If it's a municipal director, under the bylaw, they are not eligible for automatic reimbursement. It has to go through-
It's not automatic, it has to come to the board.
I see, okay.
Why would we ever?
It should be automatic.
It's so.
Should be automatic, everybody should be the same.
Yeah,
Jeez.
we remove the
Yeah.
EADs only
Of course.
because the criteria are really.
And the economic, the budget impact of that change will be almost zero.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like, it's just like.
okay, are we all,
Yes.
and there will be gray, and we will deal with the gray. But we don't want
Yeah.
gray.
For clarity, so that discussion was about SLRD meetings. So when it comes to public hearings, et cetera, or now we are at non-SLRD and ad hoc requests. So whether it be the Virginia Beach Property Owners Association that has questions, asks us to come to answer questions about taxes, or WLNG meeting about community benefits. Are we saying that mileage is automatically covered for those? Because that's
Yes.
the second.
Yes.
Oh,
And,
yeah,
and it shouldn't have to go to the board.
That's what automatic is. So if I could just automatically means doesn't have to go to the board. If it's
Yeah.
in the bylaws, CAO
Yeah.
can approve it.
okay, Sal,
Yeah, I just want to use the example of the Fraser Basin Council, where we had the wildfire meetings, and I was not appointed to that. I was asked to be on it, and so, and those there, I had to take it to the board for reimbursement. So, which is just another layer. I think that Hopefully this one here gets rid of that layer, having to go to the board. Because that's the one that's time consuming for everybody.
Chris,
They, just, and maybe this is too much of an edge case, I just wanna test to see, but the Bridge Valley Community Association is having a meeting, I hear about it. Is it reasonable for me to do that drive and submit and,
Yeah.
you know, like,
No.
Of course it is, why
I would
not?
approve it.
Yeah,
Never
you're director.
You're not, no one's allowed to go to the Bridge River, but like, like, I don't know, of course.
You have to have
The
some
whole
judgment.
point- The whole point, I think, of the remuneration for mileage is to allow this board to participate in, like, every director has just as much a responsibility to understand what's happening in the Bridge River Valley as Sal does. And so if you want to go, you don't get paid extra money to be there, but I think your costs are
You
covered.
get your
but your
mileage.
mileage is covered.
Automatic.
And the whole point of this is exactly what Jack just described.
Yeah.
And
We're there.
the chances of 11 of us going
Yeah.
to every single thing, this won't be a big budget item.
I will not be submitting.
All right, let's move on.
All diamond meeting of the.
Just for clarification.
Yeah.
The mileage part, yes. Are we including meals? If you're going to the library in Braylon?
The library's covered because that's a committee we're appointed to.
No, if I go to a meeting with.
You go to a meeting or you go to whatever, is meals somewhere in here too, or are we just
I heard Russell say expenses, so mileage and meals,
mileage
but
and meals?
not per diem, like not a day
Exactly,
rate.
okay, good.
Mike,
I feel like if you're off somewhere for a day plus, then meal, it's unreasonable to expect that anybody would pack a lunch.
yeah,
But if you're going to an afternoon meeting,
I
just
know.
like if you're going to work at the transfer station or driving a bus, you pack a lunch or you pay for lunch at the restaurant if you wanna pay for it, but I don't think we should be getting meals to go to a library board meeting.
Yeah.
Ball diamond meeting, I think that's
Yeah.
too much. If you're gone all day, then you can't pack it, right?
and if it's bigger than that, then it's an application to the board for consideration. Okay.
Right.
Everyone good?
No, I need clarity. Sorry, guys. I just, I
We wanna go to
apologize
79
for disrupting this meeting. I need some clarity. So it is, we're changing it so that all mileage and if requested meals, all travel expenses are covered for anything that is deemed their business working with.
Yeah.
And the SCAO will make no judgment or assumption on
Right.
any meeting.
Yeah.
That's being taken.
Did you just say meals?
Yeah, why not?
That's what I've heard.
You're
Well,
going to an afternoon meeting, you're getting paid to go to lunch?
no.
No, I mean, you have to be like, I mean, if our chair is going to Braylorn, I think that she should get her meals covered. I mean, she's going there for the day.
They'll serve her
I don't
lunch.
think
And
we
most
should be.
people, if you're going to work for the day, you bring a lunch or you pay for it, but you know what I mean? Like, once you've gone for more than a day, then that's when it's not reasonable to think that people are gonna pack their own stuff. But every other employee that leaves in the morning for work has made arrangements for their meal on an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
Like, that's reasonable.
And I think it's just black and white if you do it that way. There's no gray.
If you're gone for
And
more
if
than a
it
day,
is
then
something that I have to go to lunch and I have to pay for my lunch, then I apply to the board to have it covered, but it's not the standard. Chris?
well, just on that point, I was gonna say, if we just say it's meals and travel, meals and distance. And there will be in this, I think in the Sophia report or whatever. And that's where the accountability on, are you overdoing it on the meals? Are you not packing your lunch? And maybe that's sufficient. So we keep our bylaw simple, distance and meals. And the accountability pieces in the Sophie report around the meals.
I appreciate where Mike is coming from. I hear two perspectives, meals in, meals out. You wanna make a motion?
I can make it more clarity, I'm sorry. So my clarity is, if we were in a time machine and we went back to when this bylaw was last updated, there was an addition to the stipend to remove all of this confusion and administration of constantly submitting receipts and expenses to the CAO to review, feel if they're valid. So just as we want to just take a moment and go back, that's why in the past, when the stipend was increased. So and consider if you're all in agreement that there's an extra burden right now for travel within the community. You can consider increasing the stipend and removing the entire burden of submitting expenses for these meetings.
Except for mileage.
No, that's why it was done, and then the
Oh, but
80.
that's not fair, because look at the mileage that in area A compared to someone who's very close to, like me, even, most of my stuff is in Lillooet. This is not a mileage burden for me. I'm going there anyway, besides I'm driving an electric car, but that's not it. But for Sal to come down to the wildfire roundtable, that's a couple of hours travel on gravel roads, and if he wants to claim mileage for that, seems very fair to me.
May I
Jenna.
provide clarity?
I think what I'm hearing from our CAO is not to take away the threshold of over 80 kilometers.
Right, good.
It's that when this was updated in 2016, and granted I was not here, but as per the resolutions presented in the staff report, to not further add administrative burden, the stipend was increased to cover the things, and maybe the chair is a bit of a different scenario at the moment, but the chair also gets a higher stipend than anybody else. It was intended to cover
Those extra.
the extra time, the extra cost of traveling to those meetings. And so I think what I'm hearing from the CAO is there's an option to go back to how we previously did it when there was submissions for all expenses.
Nope.
There's an option if we feel like what the current stipend is not sufficient to cover the increasing costs, that we add money to the stipend and be very clear that we're adding $500 a year to the stipend to cover for those additional costs.
Including mileage?
Mileage over 80 kilometers, I don't think anybody is touching.
Okay, good.
The proposal, the only thing that I've heard is that we expand that to municipal directors.
And for clarity, expand that for non-SLRD meetings, the appointed meetings. So right now that over 80, so just anything without question from the CAO, you cover something over 80. If it's with a meeting with pandas or a meeting with the library, it's covered under the remuneration. Otherwise, the board would opt to have it come to the board.
And if the CAO is seeing something that gives you concern, you think isn't appropriate, then you talk to the chair. And the chair will talk to the director.
Yeah, under the rare circumstance, I don't want to
Yeah,
micromanage.
just didn't happen, but
Yeah.
there it is.
That's it.
Can we take a break and just a 5-minute recess to, like, this is it, because there's a whole lot of, section by section. And we are going to come to a consensus after each section. I want to give people the room to make their opinion known, but an opinion is just an opinion until we come to a consensus. I know we all know this, but this has become really, like, a ton of notes have been made, and those are all just iterations. I think that the rest of these we'll be able to go through fairly clearly. The objective here is not to put more responsibility or judgment into the office of the CAO, because it puts a political decision in front of a non-elected member of this organization.
We can solve that very easily. If the CAO is in doubt or feels sort of personally unsure, or feels like somehow it's making her vulnerable, she just defers to you, which is what should be happening anyway. You're the chair.
So the question could be then to take this in reverse, expenses that are not automatically covered by the expense policy
Yeah.
are sent to the chair.
Yeah,
And
so if
then-
I submit for going to see the bats in Kamloops, then that's outrageous. You look at that, Annie goes, holy moly, this shouldn't be authorized, and then it just goes Jen.
Or it comes to
Jen can
me
forward
first
you.
and I submit them.
It should go, yeah, it should go.
Then
to
it's
first.
political,
Oh, that takes, yes.
that
that's
takes
even
Heather out
better.
of it.
Sure.
Go ahead, Armin. You haven't been here for the benefit of all of this.
No,
discussion,
I
so-
know, and maybe that's, I'm not sure if that's a benefit or a but I think that, just in my experience with these types of things, which in our organization, District of Squamish, the council has their budgets for these things. And, it's quite permissive, but it's inside an envelope. And I think that a lot of the concerns that we have that I've been hearing is, like, as I look at this and I hear this, is about, like, just what's the max, like how do we keep it contained to make sure it's approval? I'm broadly in favor of things that are more permissive, but are inside of a reasonable envelope. And that makes good sense to me. We even
We heard
have,
about your $3,000 capacity, like we've already had this conversation, so let's not go through it again. But what we also determined is that it's very unlikely that this is going to be a major budget increase because we're not claiming huge expenses. We just want clarity on what and when, and then who's approving them. So does that help?
What I'd like to just clarify is automatic expenses don't mean you get the check and no one looks at it. Our auditing process has someone sign off on every invoice, every expense. Automatic means it doesn't have to go to the board for
Right.
approval. There have been times in the CAO where the expenses were for meetings that fell well outside of the remuneration bylaw, and there was pressure to approve it. At which point your solution is go to the board.
Correct.
And that is probably the most contention thing that comes up. The CAO is paid to have a high responsibility, which is fine. Just, we all agree that this remuneration bylaw directs me, and that I can't make independent decisions outside of that is a safe space.
The chair can.
But I can.
I don't know, not right now.
But that's what we're asking the question. Legislatively, can the expense reports that don't fall within the current allowance come through the chair and then would be forwarded to the CAO for final approval? So if I see a meeting on VAS in,
And I can justify it to you. Yep.
then I can say right back to Vivian, I don't think this is gonna fly. Or,
No, you can say no.
and I can say no, and I can also say, Heather, this is approved. The question is being asked, this is not a, can I do it right now? I know I can't.
So right now you can't, and if you wrote in the bylaw that the chair can overrule anything in the bylaw, then yes.
Let's do
But
that.
this.
But I'm not gonna wield
It's not about you.
unreasonable, I know it's not
Not
about
a
me.
good way to write a bylaw, sorry.
But okay, what was your comment?
I think I always strive for clarity in what is written so that there's as little discretion as possible. Because while I fully trust you and hopefully all future folks who sit around this table, the bylaws are the backstop to the work that we do in the politicization that happens around political tables. So it could happen that the chair really dislikes one member of the board and just says no to everything that comes forward. And that person would then have to come to the board every single time, and it would be very uncomfortable and like, so I think it's important to always think of the worst case scenario, unfortunately, when you're writing a bylaw, not what the current practice is around the table. And so, again, I think clarity on, you can have X amount to do the work, whether it's through stipend to like really ease this, and then SLRD approved meetings and or assigned roles. We cover expenses in addition to that. And then I think the like biggest gray area here right now are the non-SLRD organized meetings and how much we want to give folks leeway to attend those and how much we want to cover.
Mike?
So what if we tried to bring sort of some of the approaches together and we said, no meals, keep it simple, it's automatic, so it doesn't have to come to the board, but there's still an expense made to staff, so it still has to get processed by staff, that still exists. But it's for external and non, whatever we're calling them, SLRD directed meetings. Gas over 80 kilometers is included up to a certain amount every year. I hear the allowance idea, and that way it puts a bit of a cap on it. And if there's a director, Sal being the most obvious one, or somebody as remote as him, if it turns out that cap is too limiting, then it can be reviewed. But in this case, gas expenses still get submitted, and then 80 kilometers up to, let's put a limit on it, and that way it can't be blown out because you wanna go meet somebody in Vancouver next week and you wanna go meet somebody in Kamloops the week after. Right? That would be. Is that clear?
Yeah, and just to clear, that is for, I will approve anything. I'm meeting with the mother of the board of the director of the library. Anything is approved.
And we put, and I don't know how we get to that cap number, I mean, otherwise we're gonna start putting, otherwise we start putting. This meeting, but not that one, and that's way too specific for a bylaw as far as I'm
The
concerned.
thing too, the whole exercise here is to make this as simple and
Exactly,
clean as
so-
possible,
So,
not to,
so that way it takes some of the, it gets to a point and there is a bit of check and balance. If at the end of the year, we're in a position where. It has been looked at and you see that somebody's submitting all these crazy expenses, then it does go to the chair. And the chair might have to have a conversation with the director or take it to the board if we get to that point. But to me, that's as simple as possible.
And to Chris's earlier point, this is all reported on the SOFI. And all of these expense forms are FOIable. So if anyone is going to meet with the whatever group that a community member says, why are they meeting with that group every week? That's an FOI, that's for the citizens to decide.
And honestly, what I suggested does leave a little bit of room for abuse. There's no question. You know, if you want to do one off or two off to canvas, you're gonna get away with it. But I don't think we can cover every single aspect without getting too.
No, and to Vivian's point, we're all elected to be here. We're all adults to make good judgment. If we can't be trusted to make a judgment call on a meeting that we're going to, even if it's a group we don't agree with, you still have something to learn from that group. And so this is not about, we like this group, we don't like that group, we like this industry or that industry. This cleans things up and it allows us the leeway to do this work within a cap that makes sense. I think we should match it to District of Squamish because they've got that already in place, so it doesn't. And we can revisit that number.
Really?
Well,
Does anyone have anything that they want to add? Go ahead.
I just on the matter of like what happens with the things that fall outside of this.
They come to the board.
Yeah, I think that's the assumption is that they're not covered and then it's been pushed, then it comes to
Yeah.
the board. And for those reasons that were stated earlier, like, I think it's the cleanest, simplest way. It takes all judgment out of it, except for the individual's judgment as to how they conduct themselves, and then the collective judgment of the board if we need to adjust those limits or make an exception for whatever the exceptional scenario is that's not contemplated here.
And just for clarity on that, then what happens if something falls outside of this would be at the judgment of the CAO and the chair to discuss. So if they have a $3,000 allowance and it's a trip to Japan, we might say, but otherwise this understanding is that there's no politicization of the CAO in making these decisions. All of non-SLRD managed meetings are covered unless there is a significant flag that would. And I don't know what that is.
The what ifs are not in the bylaw.
The what ifs.
The what ifs come to the board. Good.
And the what ifs are very, like, it's gonna be very lenient. And then we're no longer discussing this idea of a stipend to remove all that paperwork.
Correct. Correct.
As much as that simplifies, the stipend would simplify, and I get the goal of that. But I think there's just too much of a variation between
Yeah,
what Sal does, what I do, and
Yeah,
Vivian
yeah,
does.
yeah, even just between Sal and I.
And yeah, so, okay,
Yes.
we are moving on. We have dealt with.
One item.
No, 2 items. We're now
Now we're
on,
losing Mayor Hopple.
we're losing Mayor Hopple. We still have quorum as I count it. Jack will be back eventually.
Yeah, we do.
Vehicle insurance, did anyone have any strong feelings? Or do we leave it as it is, being captured by the mileage as set out by CRA?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll leave that.
Indeed.
Okay, no one feels strongly. Mental health benefits, I think we've already covered that. But did you want to add anything?
I'm just thrilled to pieces about what we have. We need to share that more with directors, and also I'm gonna sign up for this EAP. The Monic's gonna look into it a little bit for me because I really want to explore what that involves and what kind of service it is for my own information. I'll share anything interesting back.
Okay. Good. Okay, childcare allowances.
Great.
I think this is excellent. This is something that, having been elected when my son was 11 months old and having gone to, I wasn't on this board at that time, but I was a member of council in Whistler. And it was extraordinarily challenging to be able to do the work that I needed to do and pay a babysitter $25 an hour. So this would have made a huge difference. Now, we've learned and we've seen in Whistler anyway, when we have public hearings and we have, we hope that people can come and participate in public hearings. We provide childcare, which isn't necessarily always used, but at least it gives the option.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Lori.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay, are we good with?
Yes. I think $100 a day is fair.
Yeah.
And per eligible meeting, that's okay, that's fine the way it's written. Yep.
Okay. Moving on,
Hitting you.
You're within reach.
expanded expense reimbursement for conferences and professional development. The one pushback I have on the language here is that the board chair, if municipal director, I would say, as the board chair, I'm only doing the work of the SLRD. I didn't attend any meetings with the RMOW. And so just, if we're gonna make it 50%, I would rather, and I had to claim it to the RMOW because it wasn't gonna be covered otherwise. I would say that the expense of the chair to go to UBCM is borne by the SLRD because that's the work that I'm doing. And it's not about me, it's about the chair. The chair is going to do the work of the SLRD at UBCM.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
And to keep it clean, to keep it simple, I would say that the expenses should be covered at 100%. And obviously, I'm not claiming it in two places, or the chair is not claiming it at the municipality and the regional district. I think it gives black and white clarity. The expenses are borne by the SLRD for the chair and the EAD directors. Can we simplify that?
I'll second that.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Okay, no one feels strongly otherwise?
My only addition to this was, I was curious about, also, automatically adding the area association meetings.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't think that's explicitly included here as I read it.
Oh, like,
The local government association.
GA,
LMLGA and
or SILCA,
The board chair.
no, for EADs,
Read.
go ahead.
Sorry, but Director Herford is appointed by us to the LMLGA board. So in my case, that would make, like for me, I'm on LMLGA, makes sense for the district to pay for that, because that's sort of my avenue, but for Director Herford, he's there through the SLRD, and so makes sense with the SLRD.
Yeah, so let's
For
make that
case.
explicit. That as an appointed member of our board,
I think
and
that's,
you're not claiming anything back from LMLGA because they don't pay anything anyway, right?
well, so at LMLGA, there's a couple things here. One is that I think that my appointment to an external by the board is covered elsewhere here, and I think captures this already.
Okay.
That's one piece. The second piece is I do think that the LMLGA has a new policy around stipend to attend meetings that specifically speaks to if you're not receiving it elsewhere. So it came to light around our board table that, that some entities, like I believe Metro Van, their appointee receives a stipend from Metro Van. So there was this inequity around the table and policies,
Yeah.
so then it was expanded. So as it stands now, so whether we want to do that for our appointees, or we want to have LMLGA do it directly.
With an asterisk unless it's covered by the,
Well, they're not covered, but then to be clear, what we're talking about isn't attending, I think what we started talking about was attending the annual conference.
Yeah.
And what Director Pettingill and I've been commenting on our participation on the board.
right,
Which are two different issues, I think.
yeah,
And so I'm not suggesting that, I don't think that there needs to be a change, but attendance to the conference because I'm appointed is actually covered by SLRD because I'm appointed to that, where municipal directors will have the opportunity to attend and have ideally the support of their municipalities, which seems to be how it's working out. So it's the area directors attending the conference that I think is the most critical here. Where running for a position, which is where how Director Pettingill finds himself on the board, is a different category of things
yeah.
than what we're talking about. So I don't think we need to actually account for, only accounted for my scenario.
Yeah.
In this with an appointment to an external that has some expenses associated with it, but that's on behalf of the board, unless I'm mistaken. And that's what I want to clarify. Does that make sense?
Thank you, and I can help provide some clarity. We currently budget for EADs to attend the local government association, so it's budgeted for and the board approves that budget. For municipal directors, it isn't budgeted for, and I'm hearing that perhaps either full chair or, okay, so leave it as is.
Appointees to that, because we have a seat on that
That's
board.
already covered.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that I'm concerned about, and if it's covered somewhere, then it should, is it not part of this? It feels like conferences, professional development category just didn't speak to that piece directly, or is that because it was already considered?
I can provide clarity and then I asked Monica to confirm this. The conferences are outside of the local government, so those local government, LGMA, FILGA, those are approved already because they're budgeted for, and then that's attendance to the conference. When it comes to appointee, those are easily approved because the board made a motion to appoint that representative as an SLRD representative.
To the meetings.
Yeah, and to the
planning
conference,
meetings.
all of it.
No, yeah, like what he's saying is when he goes to a meeting down at the Metro Van office to organize the LMLGA conference at Harrison, is he covered for his mileage to the Metro Van office? And what we've already said over an hour ago was that if you're appointed by the SLRD to that committee, you are covered.
I was,
Correct.
I wasn't talking about that. I was just talking about the conference itself is what I was talking about. I feel my participation there is covered else is.
Okay,
elsewhere,
so then,
fine.
that's where the asterisks would come in unless it's covered by another function. So that you're not double dipping. You're not charging us as well as the SLRD, as well as the District of Squamish,
No.
as well as the
Yeah.
LMLG.
Absolutely not.
I think it would be.
Monica.
To clarify, like in the bylaw, it just says meetings of external organizations where the director has been appointed by resolution of the board, and is conferences included in meetings, or is it just meetings? My interpretation is it's not, but I don't know.
If we said meetings and conferences.
Yeah. And then Jenna.
Can I get clarity on which conferences are currently budgeted for and expected to be, like, conferences or professional development? Like, that's one piece where I still feel like I don't have total clarity of like what is just allowed versus if I want to take a UBC course on governance,
Yeah.
is that something that I can do?
Thank you. And as you're correct. We already, and I think maybe it should be clarity in the remuneration bylaw budget for UBCM and local government conference attendance, and we're talking about sitting on the board of those meetings. Sitting on the board and the meetings associated with the expense associated with sitting on the board are covered through the appointment. So those two can be signed off on already. I think probably this section needs some clarity that these are conferences outside of that, climate change action conference, those sort of things.
Zero waste
And
conference.
zero waste, adding an allowance that allows for that doesn't have to come to the board.
So then that would be the previous discussion about going to professional development that you feel, yeah, I went to the zero waste conference because I thought that was really important to me to be able to do my job. That's my discretion to make that application or to put that expense in. It's automatically approved, right?
Right now.
Within our $3,000 capacity.
I think you're going to a great suggestion, which was we merge this option with the other meetings.
Yeah.
And increase that allowance to something higher, like $3,000. And then anything above that can still be approved. It
Yeah.
just needs to go to the board.
Comes to the board.
Does-
So then we don't have separate clauses. This is meetings and conferences. Go ahead.
So for the record, my numbers were off.
Okay.
The District of Squamish counselors have $6,500. It accounts for all, like any conference you may want to go to, if that's FCM, UVCM, and all of your small meetings. And the mayor has $10,000.
So 3,000 was not correct.
3,000 was not correct.
It's inclusive.
But that's
mileage.
inclusive of
Yeah.
like your UVCM registration, your hotel.
All of it. Okay,
Yeah.
but we have a separate budget item for UBCM.
Yeah, so that's the differentiation
Okay.
that would require a little bit of.
Go ahead, Mike.
Let's try to crunch a number, what
Yeah,
the appropriate
totally.
number is
Yeah,
today, I think, we could maybe use.
I think-
The staff could use Sal's number or
Yeah.
as an example of the high end and then see what. I'll come back with a number to discuss.
Yeah. This is still gonna come back for first, second, and third, so we'll come back with those
We're making notes.
numbers, great. Moving on. Remuneration of alternate directors, so. This should be interesting.
Well, we've got, the rates are following the CRA, so they'll automatically go up. We've got travel time already remunerated. What we don't have is prep time for the alternate directors. And if somebody's doing a longer stint, like we currently have in RAD, I think we should be allowing at least the equivalent time of the meeting for prep time as my ballpark suggestion.
As an example, I sit on a board that pays for prep time. And it is equivalent to the number of hours that the meeting is scheduled for is the number of hours of prep time. So effectively, if it's, that board pays $450 for an 8-hour day, they also pay $450 for prep time. Sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
There isn't any question you spend that much time on prep.
But if you did the math over, if you added,
That this could add up.
well, it adds up to more than
Our
our
stipend.
stipend.
If we-
Yeah, obviously, if you went to 12 months, but like if you look at a Wednesday, Thursday, that could be $1,500.
Well, on those numbers, if we set it at $200 a
Okay,
day.
I'm just saying, with the numbers we're looking at right there, but we just suggest, I just want to be clear that that's like $1,500 plus gas. plus, So we're paying somebody a couple grand to come to a meeting.
But, what's the current day rate for an alternate? It's in here.
$232.
It's over 3 hours.
If it's under 3 hours, 130. And that comes from the CRA, is that right? Somehow we came up with that. number.
Yeah, where did we come up with that number?
The meeting rate for alternate directors, it was established, I believe, in 2016, and then it's just evolved with CPI over the years.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm, that ballpark of a number is good for me, and then adding the prep time with that sort of number would be supportable for me.
Okay.
in your report to cover an additional $100 for over 3-hour meeting and $25 for an under 3-hour meeting,
Mhm.
adding that as a meeting expense to recognize the prep time.
Okay,
That's one of the proposed suggestions,
so then you're not doing an expense report,
prep time.
prep time and meeting time, it's just a higher meeting fee that covers expected prep time.
And
then it's
very
one number.
specific in the
Yeah.
number that it includes prep time and the remuneration.
Right. Okay. Everyone good with that? Go ahead.
The assumption, though, my assumption was that the stipend has all, so we're just basically stating what's always been the case, that it
Yeah.
includes prep time, okay?
We set a new agreement that we're. Yeah. Sorry. Moving. We're moving on. Okay, are we moving on to the next category? Which,
So what is the number we've decided for election then, I'm not here?
but,
For a meeting over 3 hours, it will move from $232 to $332. For meetings under 3 hours, it moves from $130 to 100 and, if my math is correct, $55.
155.
What about for the regular board committee of the whole?
That it would reflect the same, they're already at the same rate, it looks like, so it would be the same.
But one's less than 30 minutes, one's over 30 minutes.
Oh, the third.
The time amount for those meetings.
So the Wednesday would be different than
So-
Thursday.
Regular board committee of the whole outdoor area committee meetings, it's the time amount that's different, so less than 30 minutes versus over 30 minutes. And all other meetings are over or under 3 hours.
Oh. And again, this is just for alternates,
Yeah.
so that's.
I've never been to a board meeting that's been less than 30 minutes.
Well, that's
Just
right.
saying.
Special meetings. A special meeting can be 20 minutes.
Yep.
And it's still time out of your day.
Yep.
Can we just come back with that? Or do you need more?
Would you like to align it with the other one and just make them the same?
Yeah, right?
Like making it 7 minutes?
Yeah. Less than an hour, more than.
So if a board, committee of the whole or EA meeting is under 30 minutes, the new amount would be 155. If it's over if one of those meetings is over 30 minutes, new amount would be 332.
We're paying $332 for a 45-minute meeting potentially?
Yeah, we don't.
No, I mean, I think we keep it at above 3 hours and below 3 hours. If we wanna add something for under 30 minutes, I'm okay with that.
Uh-huh.
And those would be the 3 categories. I don't wanna pay $300 for a 45.
Yeah. Okay, and then as, just to be really pedantic, the other meetings eligible would be an alternate director who's stepping in on behalf of an area director who is on leave, is going to a community meeting at Britannia Beach. So that I'm clear on what those other meetings might look like. And we've already agreed that it's discretion of that director, alternate director, to not go to a BAT meeting in Kamloops. Okay.
What in here with that?
Meetings.
Yeah.
In Kamloops.
It's on the record. So their best ones are in the Kootenays.
What I'm hearing for clarity, we might have less than 1 hour, a less than 3 hours, and then 3 hours. And for all those meetings, they will be the same rate, and we'll come up with a rate that we.
You'll come up with a rate that makes sense
Less than 3 hours.
and prep time.
In the meeting.
Okay,
At least it.
I see Suzanne and Colin over there going. No,
Trying to keep track of everything.
there's recording.
It's so simple, we're so clear.
How did you miss?
I didn't know what we're deciding.
Okay.
Right.
In this section, I know it's about all alternatives, but it says that the stipend includes compensation for transit time. Is that already, we've already discussed that in the previous one about mileage? And if we have, that's fine. I'm happy with whatever they can
It's
provide now.
not actually been said out loud, so we've talked about mileage on paved roads, gravel roads. We've talked about meals or not meals. And we did not talk about the actual time it takes to travel, because going to Lillooet for a meeting, for a 1 hour meeting
5 hours travel.
is,
But
so,
for the alternate, because they're not on a salary, they should be compensated
Yes.
at an hourly rate for
So
that.
But my question was, are we going to specifically address that part for the directors? It's mentioned here. Is there another section that is meant to address that?
No.
Compensation?
because what we decided was the stipend was increased to include the
Okay.
cost of a director being a director.
Great.
And that includes your time of getting there, but your mileage
Okay,
is separate.
I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Just for clarity, I don't have notes to increase the stipend.
No, no,
Okay.
we're talking about 2016.
Oh, thank God, thank you.
No,
May I make some clarity? The alternate director bylaw is actually quite prescribed about, they pay travel time, they pay, it's very granular about what the reimbursement is and specific.
It was just a comment in the report that it was like, oh, just want to make sure that I
Yeah.
understood that part. So thank you.
no changes required, except what's been voted on. Anyone else on this topic?
The stipend hasn't changed since 2016, right?
Well, that's
For anybody.
that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
It has increased annually with CPI.
Yes, but
Pardon me?
the
It has
point
increased
was,
annually.
and
Yeah, that's the only increase.
and I will remind the board that the reason this came back was because $30,000, as it was in 2018, was felt by the area directors that it was not enough to make it attractive to bring people in to the area directors role. And it was recommended many years ago, I will come to you, that we increase it significantly. And we have not yet had that discussion, and we will have that discussion. But I think all of this is part of the total compensation and not just an hourly rate.
I think you addressed the one.
Can I speak?
No.
Well,
Okay, I guess I did bring up at the last meeting regarding Area A and the travel time associated in the wintertime when we can't use the Hurley. And you're looking at a 7 hour travel time to come to meetings, whether it's a C2C for the new control or whichever it is, if it's in the winter. In the summer, of course, we got the Hurley. Some directors, I know, going back to Russ Oakley, he didn't like going over the Hurley. So he would go the long way all the time. So somewhere in there for, there's got to be something in there for over X amount of time of travel that it's compensated for per whatever. Very similar to what the alternate gets for travel time.
So over 80
There-
kilometers, would we keep it in sort of that line? To say if it's over 80 kilometers, then it also incurs the sitting in your car time.
Yeah, there's got to be something there because it's well, why do I want to come
Well, so then,
and travel those roads? I just do it virtually all the time.
yeah. And I appreciate maybe the area A director is subject to a higher stipend.
in recognition of the distances that they have to travel.
If I'm gonna come to you, Chris, please. The other point is, and this is not popular, but anyone in British Columbia can run to be the Area A director. So Vivian, you could run for Area A in the next election. And someone that lives in Kamloops could run to be the area A director in the next election.
Yeah.
And so this bylaw needs to reflect that if someone is elected and electable by the constituents of an area, they should be clear on what they're covered for. I'm open to comments on that from Armand and then Chris and then Mike.
I think it's interesting, particularly with this aspect of we don't know where people live. We've got part-time, we've got people that are very interested in the various electoral areas in our region that may live, their primary residence may be elsewhere, and it is important that we consider that. I also think it's technology is amazing. We're having this conversation now where there has been zero travel time except from upstairs, downstairs, or whatever the journey has been for Sal today. And I often do that as well. I appreciate the opportunity to participate remotely, but going forward, if I see it makes sense to me that we have the stipend to offset that, but that also has to have limits, because if we make that stipend quite high to allow for 7 hours of travel time each way for our meetings, but then the participation's remote the entire time. Like, I don't know how we reconcile these things, but it's not as clean as I need to go from point A to point B to participate in this format. So I'm a little concerned about going. I kind of like the simplicity of area director, or like that area could be justifiable to have a different rate than everybody else, but at the same time, it's maybe the travel time is worth considering to account for different rates for. I don't think it's different prep or different work when we participate remotely, but it does take a different amount of time.
Yeah. And it doesn't make it attractive to run for this role if it's gonna take you all day to get somewhere and you're not being covered for that. You have to take 2 days off work to come
We
to
also
a board meeting.
do not have to.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
can do it remotely.
Right.
It's just because with the one thing I want to comment on. In my mind, the distance is a proxy for time, because you're not using the Hurley, you're going a longer distance. So the distance is higher, that implicitly in my mind, so maybe the rate needs to be set, but the mileage is a proxy for the time.
Higher than CRA.
One thing.
Mike?
Yeah, it's higher than CRA, it's decent mileage. I think we're getting mired down and making this complicated again. I appreciate the extra challenge. It's part of running for the role in Sal's area. It's a bit of a recognition of that you're either gonna have to work remotely or travel. We can't make everything perfectly equitable. I do a much better job as a mayor than Jack does, but I get paid less than half. Right? It's not.
That is so true. Yeah.
But I've chosen to run for Pemberton. That's what my area gives me to do my job. So I think we're getting really complicated here. Let's give them the mileage for the extra oath
Mileage.
and let's move on.
You let down Whistler.
Still
running in Whistler.
I'm coming, baby.
So where are we at with
No,
no change,
no change.
no travel time?
No, it's the same. It's proxy for time. Yeah.
Okay,
I like that proxy for time. We're using
Okay.
big words.
okay. Thank you, Sal. All right, moving along. We're still on the alternate directors, though.
I think that's the last point.
That is the last point. This is good. Anything from Monica that hasn't been?
There was one.
I'm coming back to you. Okay, go.
There is the conversation of allowing alternate directors to do shadow training, which is other regional districts do. I think it's a great training opportunity. So even if you're available, you can bring your alternate director as a shadow and they are covered. Because right now the remuneration says if director Mac
Okay.
is not available, then the alternate is paid. But if we actually add that two meetings per year, a director may bring an alternate as a shadow, non-voting shadow, and it's covered.
Go ahead.
I agree. I want to double check that we're covering orientation costs.
Yes.
Having alternate directors, that the orientation is important. Is that included?
This was just costed out to be up to 2 meetings, I believe, per term. And so that
Term
could
is
be,
better than per year.
yes, it could be, you know, at the beginning of the orientation period or.
Yeah, I think I would make one of those required to be the orientation. And then an additional meeting or 2 I'd consider, but I think covering costs to have alternate directors if they're available to join for orientation is very helpful.
Orientation and one shadow meeting?
Yeah.
Perfect. Orientation and one shadow meeting per term. Yes.
Okay.
Or if there's about election, they can.
Don't.
Okay.
Jeez, I am gonna start hitting.
Okay.
If we can make a 5-minute recess so we can ensure that we have everything covered.
All of this is gonna come back for consideration of the board. But yes, you can have a 5-minute recess. Monica. Sum us up.
So I think we drafted some resolutions for the board to.
Thank you.
All right, Anthony.
I'm happy to
Here.
ensure that we got exactly what's captured. Again, the verbiage will be tightened up a little bit, so it is a little bit rough. But that it be recommended to the regional board that staff bring back the director's remuneration bylaw to reflect mileage reimbursement rates that remain the same and that's in the current, which follow the CRA automobile allowance rates, and that includes all vehicle expenses. Meal reimbursement rates.
So that's the
Sorry.
over 80 kilometers for EADs and municipal directors.
No, this is just the mileage
This is just the
reimbursement rate,
mileage rate.
70% per
It's
kilometer.
just the rates,
Okay.
because
But we're
we're
see, so
keeping a
we-
paved and a gravel road
I see. What
differentiator.
Got it.
Because those are included in the CRA as well. So we're not setting our own rates, we're using the CRA rates. Got it.
and that meal reimbursement rates align with CRA rates. And 75% of the CRA amount be provided if no receipts are expensed.
Yeah.
For the SLRD organized and non-SLRD organized meetings, the current director's stipend covers the meeting time. However, directors will expense mileage in excess of 80 kilometers. For mental health benefits, they're covered under the SLRD benefits package for those directors that enroll, and all directors will be automatically enrolled in the SLRD EAP program.
Oh, good.
I love it.
Excellent.
That's great.
Sorry, can I seek clarity on that? For
Yeah.
those of us that are already enrolled in the program through our municipalities, I don't want the SLRD to incur that secondary expense,
So municipal
So-
directors are not included?
but not all municipal directors have it.
Oh, okay. So then you can
if
opt
you
out.
can opt out. Would be the application.
So all directors, not covered, not already covered.
All directors are automatically enrolled unless they opt out.
In the EAP only,
In the EAP only.
not the extent.
That's just the
They
$36.
opt into the extended benefits plan should they choose.
Opt in if they want to.
Do we want language in the bylaw that says if they're covered under their municipality?
No,
That-
because if I choose to double down and take
Awesome.
2 benefits plans, one through here and one through RMOW, I can do that. Cause I'm paying for it. Right?
No.
Okay, it's 100% coverage is what I.
Oh, it is. Oh, sorry. Okay. So then excluding municipal directors from benefits.
If
plan.
they have it through their municipal.
Okay. Yep, that's good. Okay,
Childcare allowance for directors and alternate directors to be $100 per eligible in-person meeting. For conferences and professional development, UBCM and area association meetings such as SILDA and LMLGA expenses for the board chair and EAD directors be covered at 100%.
So should that be conference, not meeting? I think it's. Like, I think that's what we're talking about when we bring up those pieces.
Okay, that staff develop a provision for additional conference and professional development expenses for consideration. Okay. For remuneration of alternate directors, add preparation time to meeting rates of an additional $100 for meetings over 3 hours and an additional $25 for meetings under 3 hours. Staff to develop a rate for meetings under 1 hour for alternate directors, and that alternate directors be reimbursed for 1 orientation and 1 shadow meeting per term.
Yeah.
I think part of that was important was that the amount. I think we need to have some language in there so that whoever views this on its next review, if it gets across the line, that those rates are meant to be inclusive of prep time. I think that language is important, but I don't know if that needs to be in the motion or not, but it was a big part of the discussion, I think.
Virtual meeting attendance by an alternate director would be this thing, right? So,
Yeah.
if an alternate director is attending a less than 1 hour meeting, they're still eligible for that less than 1 hour meeting fee.
Yeah.
Even if they're zooming in. Okay. But
Can I just seek clarity from my colleagues on the childcare component? We say in-person eligible meetings. Are those just SLRD meetings? Or what do we mean by an in-person eligible meetings?
yeah, I think,
Like SLRD board and committee meetings?
yeah.
Meetings that you are also.
And I would also suggest that whether you're virtual, if you are required to be at that meeting as a director, whether it's virtual or in person, you're still getting childcare or you required childcare. So I wouldn't say it's an in-person meeting. I would say it's any required meeting. Childcare should be covered over a certain amount. Like if it's a half an hour special meeting, fine. Like kidnaps, but if you're taking the time out of your day, you're either neglecting the meeting or you're neglecting your kid. I won't speak for the mums in the room, except that I was one. And it's not as easy. I am, but I don't have to worry about him. I can throw him on Roblox for the day and I'm less worried. But if you've got a toddler running around and you're virtually attending a meeting, you may want a childcare stipend for that meeting. I'll ask the mom with 2 toddlers not to call you out, but how do you feel about that, Jenna?
I think it's really variable depending on people's circumstances and situations. I think if I elevate this up to a broader policy discussion on what it is that we're trying to enable, it is providing folks some coverage for full person or full day attendance at SLRD meetings where needed. And there's some discretion that's built into that. I don't know if we want to be prescriptive on whether it's an in-person meeting or if you're still attending hybrid. For me, it's the length of the meeting more than anything else. We're gonna do $100 a day. It should be a full day meeting. And that's what we cover, and it's an SLRD meeting.
Jack?
I think this is good. I wonder, why shouldn't our staff expect the same? So that's a enormous budgetary conversation, it seems to me.
And I'm happy to explain a slight differentiation where the stipend And the salary that we typically incur as elected officials is not anywhere close to a full-time amount. So it costs me money to come to a meeting.
Yeah.
Because the rate of childcare is higher than what I would make as a stipend. And so if we're talking about how we encourage a diversity of folks to take on these roles and have the ability to take on these roles, one of the biggest challenges is you have folks that are paying out of pocket to come to meetings. Like they're incurring costs to be here.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't, I have no argument with that. But I don't see the reason that our staff shouldn't expect this.
I would suggest that someone working full-time has full-time childcare if they've got a toddler. Or if their child is in school, they're like, so there's a lot of variability, but we pay our staff to take on the role full-time or part-time. And the requirement of childcare, that's why we advocate so hard for affordable childcare in this province, so that people can afford to go to work. This is different. We're not employees.
I understand, but we have 2 meetings a month. They have
5 days a
20
week.
days
Exactly.
a month. But this is my point. So we say we're getting a lower stipend. We're getting a lower stipend, but we are only here 2 days a month.
That's the
We're not
topic
employees.
for another.
Municipal directors, not EAD directors.
No, any of us.
Yeah,
No, but he's saying you're here 2 days a month. Well, we're here more than 2 days a month. EAD meetings, PVs, you know, so that's just.
No, what we're saying is an elected official is not an employee. We're not, if you've got childcare needs, you either take this is not a. Go ahead.
I think that eligible meetings need to be defined, which to me are these board meetings, not in other cases when we talk about travel and so on, we talked about being broader with that. I think that might be a way to help with this. I think that it makes sense to me that it's provided as we look at other roles. This issue needs work elsewhere in society when we look at the drive towards $10 a day daycare and like all those things to make sure that we have everyone has access to employment. I think that in broader society and in the workforce, the things should be done. One of them is paying the workforce broadly at an appropriate level so that that's a life choice people can make. But in this role specifically, I think if our reason for looking at this is to ensure that that the voices around this table represent the composition of the community, then it's a worthwhile investment. The highest risk we have, if we think about it from a risk perspective, is that a high amount of the table needs it. And we might have some large budgetary considerations. As we sit around this table, I don't see this being huge, and I don't see that being a risk in just statistically in future. Maybe it is, and that's great, because I think it would be great to have more folks around the table that require that. So I'm supportive of this direction. I think it doesn't mean that everything's fine in all the other categories. We're here to discuss this category, and perhaps with more people that require this support around the table, those other issues would stand a better chance of being resolved. I think that's actually the root of the issue here.
Yeah. Yeah.
A suggestion to move forward, that we clarify this and call it meetings over 3 hours are covered, and SLRD board and committee meetings. So we don't dive into town halls and things like that at the moment. We just keep it at PVIS, EAD, or those policies, those things.
And I would take the in-person criteria out.
Yeah.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay. Do you have something to add?
No, where are we?
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay,
We need to move those as a block of
well,
things.
Angela's not done yet.
No, sorry.
That was,
That was it?
yeah. I'd like to move that and take all the credit.
Okay, and Arvind is seconding. Any comments?
Great work, Viv.
Yeah, I think this is important work. I honestly have clear recollections of the 2016 conversation, which was long and challenging, and this one the same, but I think that this is important work that actually sets us up for success over a longer period of time. I think 2016 work has served us well, and this, I think, will serve us well. I'm very supportive of the decision to include childcare. I just want to clarify that my question is really about, we should have that other conversation. And so I look forward to it.
That would be a staff remuneration. That would be.
Sure, yeah,
100% within the CAOs. Like it's a totally different.
well, it'll be a budget conversation.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Okay. Jenna.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank staff for guiding us through the conversation and reflecting back our last meandering discussion about this in a way that was clear and succinct and gave us some structure for today's conversation, and to board colleagues for wrestling with what feels like sometimes mind-bending differentiations on small things, but are important at the end of the day. As we've talked about in the past, I think it's important to be doing this work at the end of our term, so that we set up lessons learned from our experience around this table and set up whoever sits around this table going forward, hopefully with some more structure. I'm grateful for the work that was done in 2016. And I think that this helps to refine it further and start to address some things that we know are really critically important, and making sure that folks feel attracted to be able to take on these important roles in elected office.
Anyone else? Chris?
Yeah, I appreciate this, and for me, the focus has been, can we make it simpler, and, recognizing it, as I think we said at the start of this, we had many acclamations, and I think we've ended up with some good folks from the electoral areas, but we want to make sure that that people are running and hear complaints about not good leadership and blah, 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 just generally in the political thing. And so making sure that a lack of compensation is not an obstacle to good people coming into these seats.
Anyone? No?
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just, I'll just thank you to staff for putting this together in a way that makes sense and working through it with us, and to my colleagues for sharing their experience and in interacting with this. And I think it's important that we provide, clarity if nothing else, and then but also set us up so that folks that we have at least a opportunity to have a broader cross section of society represented around elected tables. I think is really important, and little pieces like this do add up if we don't get them right, where it can't be costing people money to participate in these roles. And I think that if we didn't get this right, that's a very real possibility, whether it's in the form of childcare or getting the mileage piece wrong for folks from all those things we discussed today. So yeah, I really appreciate it, and look forward to the next steps.
Okay. I appreciate that this conversation has been fulsome. I think that the report that we received from the consultant and from staff over the last several months has been really informative and very helpful to see what other regional districts are compensating elected officials with. And so as we've wrestled this to the ground, I feel a lot better informed, and I feel like we're moving forward to 2026 with intention of seeking good participation in the work that we do. So I'm grateful to everyone for this, and I will call the question. Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have budget.
You know, we started now.
We're weak now.
Yeah.
We.
Motion approved.
Lunch is probably not here yet. Yeah, so when, yeah, here we'll do a working lunch again.
Good.
And then, but we'll have Colin and Suzanne guide us through probably the most important discussion we have all year.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna take.
Take your time. We are not in a rush.
The motion.
Well, then stop repeating what everyone else said.
You get a hat, Vivian?
No, I'm not.
That's your real hat wearer.
No,
But when you're out looking for bats, you need a hat on.
no, not at all. But you're wearing a headlamp, glasses, and all these things.
I know.
Thinking bat sounds.
I was just giving Suzanne a minute to breathe.
Full of scat.
If anyone says I'm like scared, that's on
You
them.
can send it off,
Billy
announce it, and
Pockets.
then they can lose it.
All right.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Suzanne LaFrance, Director of Finance, and I'm here to present the preliminary 2026 staff budgets, which are just the regional budgets, which are most of the board, not every service, but RGS is without Area A, and Seaside Trails is just the southern parts, but we'll go through the majority of these budgets today. And I'd like to bring more budgets to this committee next time in January meeting for discussion. Previously, these budgets were brought just to a Teams meeting, and I'd like them to be in an open meeting. But that includes the northern
Good idea.
Area A and Area B, Squamish-Lillooet services. So I've listed them here. That would be the rescue service for District of Lillooet, the 911 interior, and then 911 south also. So that's Area C, Area D, and Village of Pemberton. Lillooet area refuse grounds, the Lillooet Camelsplit TV and radio rebroadcasting, the Lillooet Area B library, and the Area B District of Lillooet Economic Development Center. So those will be coming in January, as well as the 5-year plans for all of the current budgets we have today.
Suzanne, I'm just gonna need you to speak a little bit louder, please.
Gosh.
Sorry.
All right.
Or I could come down and sit.
I'll try. Okay, so the assessments aren't available yet for 2026. So these still have the 2025 revised roll assessments, which we used last year. So it's actually not that bad. You get to see the change without the mixing of assessments in there. So you really see the tax increase here. But the January is when the 2026 completed roll will be released. So when these come back in January's committee of the whole, they'll have the new assessments within them. I've listed the current requisition increases within these budgets. And hopefully we can go through what the board's comfortable with and what we need to kind of work at to get to where you're comfortable. If you want, we'll just start right into the general government budget. So this year I've organized it a little bit more simply because the general government budget has so many moving parts. I wanted to just, especially the operating section, I wanted to just separate it into digestible subtotals. So I have subtotals now for just board expenses, which is basically the indemnities, all the expenses, including the Christmas party and the off-site meetings and the board tour. That's all included in that subtotal. The increase for 2026 is mainly just the CPI 3%. And I did add some additional expenses for the alternates because I knew that was going to come through through this discussion previously. And I added a little bit more to the Christmas party to invite the alternates because we hadn't budgeted for that before. And I added a little bit more for offsite meetings as requested by corporate, just because those offsite meetings are getting more expensive to coordinate. And probably staff expenses, so that subtotal is everything that kind of touches staff, which is salaries, benefits, employer health tax, training, travel, the wellness benefit and staff incentives. And so this is a 3% CPI also estimated for salaries. It also includes full year salaries for those that were started in 2025. We have a couple positions that started in 2025. So that shows an increase this year. It also includes any other salary increases. The benefit increases. So our benefit plan renews in August. It's estimated 10% as an increase to the benefit plan, which is an unknown, and we kind of find out just at the end of the beginning of August what it's going to be. Training, yes, training and travel has increased in 2026 just due to the requested training for staff. So the Human Resources Department has requested more onboard staff training. There is a list here. More occupational health and safety training, emergency first aid training for all staff in the office. And then some lunch and learns and some additional IT staff training as well requested. So that's a $10,500 increase in training in 2026. And this also includes the $25,000 for Indigenous relations training, which is carrying forward from last year at $19,000 was not spent. So that's carrying forward into 2026. General government operations is basically all of the little things that happen in this office and all the big things. So subscriptions, advertising, meeting costs, communications, courier supplies, office supplies, hydro, rent, maintenance, photocopier, record storage, the office fleet, including ICBC, and then all the consulting, so legal, audit, any other consulting, and all the time allocation from other departments working in general government. For projects, and it includes 25,000 for First Nations engagement as well, which is 100% carried over from 2025. There's also IT expense line because this is also a big investment this year as we try to keep up with the ever dynamic landscape of IT, and kind of we have a backlog still because we have, you know, a lot of ambitious IT projects on the landscape. So this includes device renewals, the teams calling to replace our current phone system, a new asset management software implementation, which is covered through growing communities and community works funds. Also, Unit 4 financial ERP system optimization and cloud migration is included in 2026. There's also an IT strategic plan added, which is going to be a 5-year plan for $25,000. And IT support services and cybersecurity, which is also a big one for 2026. It also includes the board computer expenses, which has been increased in 2026 due to the elections. And also is the boardroom AV refresh, which we just received some quotes for this full project, and fortunately, it would increase the budget 29,000 if we want to go with what the quotes came back with. So they're right now into the 2025 budget, there was an AV refresh already approved at 15,000. And now that's gonna be increased 29,000 if in the next iteration of the budget.
Question.
Thank you, and it's just in this, I know that this 2026 is a election year, so I'm happy to see it reflected with like some onboarding, some computers were mentioned there. I just wondered when or where I understand if there's an additional board member coming on, and we're like, when do we, where is that? Is that here? We need to budget for budget.
We need to budget for it.
If that is. in
Well, we
fact,
know that census is kind of clear.
Yeah, is
when
that,
it's happening, but
Thank you. We asked that question internally and it would likely be end of 2027, early 2028. I'll defer to Angela and do the research. And if my memory serves me correct, it wouldn't impact this.
correct.
Yeah, with census happening in 2026, we typically don't receive any of that information from the ministry till end of 2027.
so not this time, but likely next time.
No,
it'll
it
be-
would come into effect it would come into effect at the end of 2027. Yeah, so midterm, yeah.
so when Whistler got the second seat, it was November of 2018. Which is when I joined in January of 2019. So it takes place in the calendar year.
Okay.
So
No, that's
not
fine.
within the term, like it can happen midterm is my point.
Oh, okay, I wasn't
It's
aware
not.
of
Yeah,
that. Okay, no, that's fine. I was thinking about that in the context of just of budgeting and if that was something that we had to contemplate at this point, so, okay, thank you.
okay. Sal, go ahead.
I see in the general government strategic plan request, Indigenous Relations and Economic Development Coordinator staff position. Request to fund this position from BC Hydro PILT annual funding. I'm just curious on that, why it wouldn't be, if it's going to be a position that we're going to hold moving forward, why it wouldn't come out of the staff funding.
I mean, it could come out of general government help or planning help.
It's just a suggestion to use grant funding for this position. It's a new way of looking at the PILT, because currently, like the 2025 budget is just a revenue item that offsets anything, but we were looking at specifically allocating certain funds to expenses. So it was just a suggestion to use the PILT amount, the BC Hydro payment in lieu of taxes. We're still going through this policy update for the BC Hydro payment in lieu of taxes, which will probably be a few months still to develop, but this will be brought up with that policy committee discussion as well. Some type of way to just align our expenses with grants.
Okay.
And this is a position the CAO has suggested for Indigenous Relations and Economic Development, the SLRD. And
Well, yeah, I think if I could speak, I think that this has to come to the board for sure, because I'm not in favor of it. If we're going to have that position, it should be coming out of staff expenses and not as another staff position, not to be funded by some grants, whatever grant it is. If it's going to be another staff position, that's in my mind. That's my opinion on that anyway. I don't want to see PILT being used for staff unless it's a project that we approve of, a project such as, say, a Braylor and Sewer project where we need to fund something for staff to do a study or whatever it's going to be. But if it's going to be a full-time position, it's got to be a full-time position that is funded by the public. Thank you.
I have Vivian, and then Chris and Jenna. And then Mike.
Sure, that one jumped out at me too, and I just thought, well, I mean, we get a large allocation from BC Hydro payment in lieu of taxes, and the lion's share of it goes into general government and planning. I'm okay if we want to use some of that money for this position, as long as it's not cutting into some of the other allocations that we have for PILT. We're all pretty defensive of that fund that we manage as EAD directors.
And that's what it's meant to be, just to use the general government code that we typically just have as one revenue line that's not specific to an expense. But we're looking at trying to match some grants with expenses.
In that case, it's okay with me, but yeah, we should
But it
talk about it
Would be a
further.
discussion of,
At the PILT policy review, yeah.
and would it be a term position or a long-term ongoing that's the discussion that we need to have. So as not to get bogged down into, because there are 1 million lines in this budget that we need to go through. I think we have that conversation and I'll go to Chris and then Jenna and then Mike.
Yeah, what I heard from staff or understood is that there's just been some recent changes to rules around PILT, so we're already wrestling with this in the policy committee, so I think we'll hear about what that is, we'll have that discussion, and then it will come to the board, and I don't even know what those changes are, so.
Just wanna voice that I'm supportive of adding this position. I think how we fund it is another question, whether it's through PILT or taxation, but those are typically our options, but I think having the additional resource for this particular reason in Indigenous relations and economic development are things that I've heard loud and clear on this table, that there's increased support to have more staff capacity on those two files. So I think that I'm willing to support the proposal of the additional staff.
Mike?
My question's around IT. And maybe it's a question to be brought back at the next budget meeting, but lost it. Where do the expenses go? Yeah, the fact that we've gone up 113% and $880,000 in the IT, so that's a lot. I'm sure there's lots of good reasons I can't understand. Because I'm not an IT kind of guy, but that seems like a lot for me to wrap my head around. So the question would be, is it in 2026, or are some of these expenses can be maybe worked over a couple of years? Because I'm having a hard time with that number.
Yeah, a lot of it is because of the Unit 4 cloud migration and optimization project. So we put quotes out and they came back a lot higher than what we had budgeted in 2025 for this optimization project. So I've increased that 100 to 100,000 for 2026. And that's to really get the Unit 4 financial software usable for all of our managers. Right now, it's not. And it takes a lot of training, obviously, to coordinate and everybody understanding on how to use the system, and also advancing the budget side of the system so the managers can do their own budgets internally into the system. Right now, it's all, I extract data and I build a spreadsheet, it's just way too time consuming. So that's part of it. There's also the asset management software implementation that's added, which is actually grant funded. So if you look at that expense.
How much is that one?
That's $120,000. So it's $100,000 from Growing Communities Fund and $20,000 from the Community Works Fund was already resoluted by the board for the asset management software. So that's in 2026, but it's grant funded. And the other increases for cybersecurity, we have 65,000 for cybersecurity in 2026 due to the assessments that were done in 2025 and carrying forward some of that work from 2025 as well into 2026. And there's new licenses as well being purchased, and can't remember the software, but I could pull up.
I don't need to, you don't need to list all the software for me. Let me just put it this way, as we look at next iterations of the budget and we try to relieve some pressures on this budget, that is one area I might look to. And ask staff if some of these things that you've listed can be done over 2 or 3 years. Again, depending on what we see coming forward in the next few weeks and months.
And I've provided.
Preparing you for that question.
Yeah, I provided a table of other funding requests that basically we can go through and pull out some items and maybe push items to other years. So in that table, I have 40,000 for asset management consultant, just to really.
Is this at the bottom of the report?
It's before the budget.
At the top.
Yeah, it's just in that pre-reading there. Right. So there's 40,000 in there for a consultant. It is Community Works Fund eligible though, so I could bring this to the EAD for their feedback to fund a consultant to try to kickstart a little bit more asset management practices. So right now it's not showing the Community Works Fund, but I think I'll bring that to the EAD in January, and then you can probably take that off for Community Works Funds. But for now, it's on this list of not funded from anything but taxation. And then there's I have the Unit 4 optimization project, which I'm requesting 70,000 more for. There is 30,000 carrying forward from 2025. So it'll be a $100,000 project. So the 70,000 is just the addition. The 25,000 for the IT strategic plan, we can push that potentially to 2027. And the cybersecurity work, I wouldn't recommend pushing, but there's the 54,000 is the new ask. There is about 10,000 carrying forward, a little bit over 10,000 carrying forward. There's a new ask for HR consulting. We have one HR person that often would definitely benefit from some assistance, like some consulting. Also some financial consulting for 10,000 as well. We had that this year. We used the additional BC Hydro payment and lieu of taxes that went to general government to cover some consulting for service establishment bylaw amendments, which was really helpful. So potentially we can have that again for 2026, but that's just a request right now. And also $10,000 to support the new code of conduct policy if there is a third-party review needed for any serious breaches. So that's just kind of a contingency. And there's also $20,000 for accessibility initiative, which is to audit all of our front-facing services. It's part of the plan in place. And then there's 10,000 for a digital community engagement project, which could be pushed as well, but it's just to have little information snippets about the SLRD for the public, just to create some videos or something, some digital media. And then we have ergonomic workspace upgrades for $5,000 in the office here, and the IT server replacement is also $25,000. These are all new asks. And a new IT investment reserve, because IT is always going to be an investment for every year. We want to maybe start putting it into a reserve and then being able to pull from a reserve versus tax and have a big jump in taxation. So this is just the start of an IT investment reserve. There's always using the surplus reserve for general government as well, which we still have to develop a plan for usage. Probably put it in a policy of how we want to use this surplus, which is 449,000 right now. So we could pull from surplus this year just to offset some of these new funding requests, or just push the funding requests. It's all options for the board. And
Just sorry, as a point of clarity for the sake of people watching, how do we arrive with a surplus? And as we know, local governments can't carry, they have to find ways to smooth out big increases. in Whistler, we call them 3 big rocks, like we've got big challenges over the next 5 years, and so we're trying to smooth those in, and so coming in with higher tax requisitions to, and I know budgeting and RD budgeting is different, but just how do we have a surplus, and how is that surplus not just relegated back to those expenses if they don't get spent, if a project doesn't get completed? Is that where the surplus would arrive from?
No, this was the surplus reserve that the board decided on a few years back. So it's just been sitting and growing, but hasn't been used yet because there wasn't a plan for use. So this could be the plan when you need additional funding that you don't want to tax for these kind of projects. We could pull from the surplus reserve fund specific to general government.
Right, okay. Jenna?
Sorry, just to seek clarity on that. Was the policy not at the time in order to have, it's like, I think, general good budgeting principles that you have 2 months operating in your surplus in case something happens? That was my, that was my
That is the guideline.
understanding of why we would have a surplus. It's not that it's just that we're putting money away for the sake of putting money away, it's so that we have money there in case something really bad happens. Am I correct in that being the policy?
Yes, that is the policy. However, if we're just holding $449,000 just in case something really bad happens, and we can use it for other items and then put in others, like we could pull and put in surplus to the reserve yearly instead of just letting it sit there and not being used unless something really bad happens.
And we can invest it.
It'll all
It's all
of our
invested.
funds are invested,
Yeah.
all including operating funds.
Yeah. I think we, you know, like if a major water main needs to be replaced, we've got
We wouldn't be
reserves for
able to
that.
use that, no,
No.
it's just specific to general government, it's different for municipalities,
Yes.
they get a nice big slush fund that they could use for anything. We are stuck with silos.
Each water main has its own reserve in the
Right,
event that
and
something
service, each service has.
Each
reserves.
service has
Not
its own-
enough reserves though, but yes.
Right,
We're still trying to build a lot of reserves for
Yeah.
our water systems that have.
So relative to our policy, what is the expected level that our reserve should be at and what is it currently?
If it's meant to be 2 months, it's definitely under because I don't have that calculation right now, but I can bring it next time. But it would be a large number and something probably not doable.
So then contemplating smoothing out our tax requisition by using the surplus is not the move that we would want to go right now. With all of the economic uncertainty in the world right now.
What I would suggest, actually.
Yeah.
I would suggest using some of the surplus.
Oh,
From the general government surplus.
Yes, yes.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
That's our slush fund. But we're not touching some of the reserve funds that we have attached to certain services where we do want to build up a 2-month
Yeah,
reserve,
those-
right? If I understand that,
That's
okay.
the general
Okay, go to
government.
Jack and then Armin.
Conversation has moved on from where I was
Okay.
gonna provide input.
Armin, then Chris.
Just two things. One, I heard that our policy is to have 2 months operating in that reserve, and that may never be possible. It's very aspirational. Combined with a recommendation to, in tandem with that, to use the funds, like I feel those things feel in conflict to me. So how, sorry, can you clarify that? And if we need to consider updating the policy as part of this, I'm very open to that. I just want to make sure that we're all in the same understanding.
Yeah, the policy are guidelines, and it's basically any service should have at least 2 months in a surplus. The general government is so different in that it's all of the fleet, it's a lot of expenses. So just to have a surplus of, say, 500,000 sitting and not being used is not what I would suggest. I suggest we use that fund when we need it, And we put away more funds when we have them available. Like if there is ever a surplus in 1 year, we could put it back into the reserve fund.
Yeah,
That's my suggestion. It's different for municipalities and I know that.
no,
yeah.
I'm looking, yeah, in this context, I think that just if we have I'm open to looking at this. I just think it should come in tandem with some policy adjustments so that we clearly articulate what we're expecting there, because it feels mismatched at this point. So I'd like to, if we're gonna adjust how we act, I think it should go there.
I think with general government, we should maybe look at that
Mhm.
service
that.
Yeah.
more stringently. Everything else is fine. It's just, it doesn't really work with general government.
Yeah, that's great, and that's basically what your comments
Yeah.
captured. So, but I'd like to do that so that we articulate when we look at it again. The same conversation doesn't need to happen. On the IT pieces, and earlier we heard Director Richmond questioning the IT investments. What are those guiding those investments now? I see that one of the items is a IT strategic plan. Are we working from an older IT plan of some sort that is directing these investments, or because we're seeing so many asks for it, we've arrived at the conclusion that we need the IT strategic plan to guide those?
There's a very old IT strategic plan before the manager was hired. So now that we have a manager of IT, they're gonna be reviewing and rebuilding a 5-year outlook.
Okay. I feel like this planning piece feels important because the IT pieces are so impactful, but anyways, thank you. That's helpful context.
Okay, pause on that.
Director Mayor has lost internet and he's on his landline, so I have some messaging from him. But I did want to remind everyone that the entire leadership team is here, so some questions Director LaFrance could defer for more clarity for answers.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want him to be excluded from the meeting if he wishes to participate. So if we need to take a little recess so that he can join us, we can take that time. We can go get our lunch and we can come back. Can we do that? Because I don't feel right for this not to include the Area A director should he wish to participate, and if there is a way to get him in. So let's take a quick 10-minute recess. Let's go get our lunches, bring it back here, and we'll carry on. Okay. Hi, Sal. Thanks for coming back. Sorry you're having challenges in Area A, but this highlights for us the realities of climate change. Okay, back over to you, Suzanne. Welcome to the table, Rowena.
So I have Rowena Hansley here to go over some of the IT projects for 2026.
So I'm happy to answer any specifics, but I thought I could go through the larger items. So for cybersecurity, we finished some reviewing. We had a consultant review, so this is to cover the highest priority outcomes from that review. And I can give you more details, like and close around that if you would like. For audio visual, we had originally budgeted 15,000. We're hoping to do sort of a phased refresh of the system of this room, but we had a consultant review it and it's quite dated. It's old technology. Basically, the recommendation is to do a complete refresh of the system. It makes it a lot easier to use, a lot more modern, and it will improve the experience for both the public and for remote participants. So that was considered sort of the lowest amount to get us something reasonable for this boardroom. For software, we're seeing large increases in what software vendors are increasing far above inflationary costs. So the budget reflects that. But there is one new item of licensing for our server. This licensing is something that comes up probably about every 5 years. So that's for our database that backs some of our applications. We talked a little bit about the IT strategy plan already. So under support services, the large item that Suzanne also mentioned was around Unit 4. So we have started an improvement project to improve the functionality for managers, and that's going to be ongoing next year, as well as a cloud migration project, which is being mandated by the vendor. That was the large one there. Under hardware, we have a new server scheduled, so this is another one that sort of comes up every 5 years or so. The reserve that Stan mentioned will help flatten that out in future years. And the last large increase was around the board devices, given that when the board is in a meeting, you're using everything from your collaboration tools, office tools, Teams, that sort of thing. We're trying to provide a higher spec laptop for the board. So that was a large increase there.
Sorry, Jenna.
Laptops or tablets?
I budgeted for tablets and for higher specs so that they'll have basically faster speed, as well as being a more convenient size.
Thank you.
Yeah, just curious about IT in this room. You've participated in various different forms, and this one seems to work actually one of the smoothest. So I'm curious where the tension points are in the system that we do have and what isn't working, and how we think we can improve it.
Sure. So the equipment is now out of warranty. It was a 3-year warranty. I think we're around we're approaching the 5-year mark for age. Some equipment has already failed, and we've had to bypass it. And it's sort of this funny situation where we don't really know how it works. And we've had the vendor come up a couple times. They've confirmed that the equipment is indeed out of warranty. And then we did have a consultant come and review the system. So we have bypassed the faulty equipment, but it's just a matter of time now. One piece has failed and we've managed to bypass it, but the next piece of failure, we might not be so lucky. The newer technology integrates really smoothly with Microsoft Teams. So it makes the job of legislative services a lot easier in terms of setting up a meeting. The equipment will also so it was an audiovisual specialist that came and visited this site, and they did suggest monitors on these 2 walls too, so that it's a more natural experience. So you're looking, there'll be a monitor and a camera on 3 walls. So when you're looking at the screen, the camera picks it up like you're looking at the camera. So anyone viewing the meeting sees your face, not just sort of the side angle of your face, looking in a different direction. And the newer technology also follows the speaker much more naturally. So right now it's focusing on me because I'm speaking, but you can't see the rest of the large view of, but the newer technology, the camera will focus on individuals much better uses AI to basically follow the speakers.
Just, and we had a similar conversation in Squamish, I really find personally effective, just Zoom or Teams or whatever on your own devices, and that's it. No owls, no, there can be a monitor, but
We tried that and it's really clunky in here, just because of the,
Wi-Fi is not significant enough to have that many cameras on.
you know, let's let the IT specialist make the recommendations based on.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm typically all day long, but I really trust that staff are not spending extra money for the fun of it. This is a basic level of service that we're asking for, so go ahead, Mike.
I totally trust, and I think they're good recommendations. I do think that it's a recommendation I'm gonna be looking at pushing off a year. What we do have is adequate, and we do provide a good service AV wise, so with the $480,000 increase in that budget, that will be one area that I will be considering paring back. Not right now, I'm not saying cut it out right now, because I haven't seen the entirety of the budget. But again, the IT increases are substantial and are putting pressures on other aspects of the budget, so I will be looking at that one and any other ones that can be spread over a year or two. And your advice on that in the upcoming meetings.
just a clarity piece, so most of these seem to be operational. Is there any piece of IT that would be considered capital? Or is it all?
Just the server.
Okay, thank you. More to come. Any other questions on this topic? Go ahead.
I just make a comment that I tend to agree with where Director Richmond's going on it. I feel like the demands on stuff like cyber and data is, to me, where we should be investing and I agree, this works right now. So
Maybe not for long.
I might second his motion. I may second his motion.
Okay. Okay, Suzanne.
That is basically the general government presentation. I don't know if there's any direction from the board at this point, or should I go to planning?
Are there any other questions that anyone hasn't had a chance to ask yet on this topic? I think because we're gonna see these, oh, you know, over a couple of days, I'll let you carry on.
Okay, I hope that I can receive some direction from the board on every service. But we'll go to planning. Oh, sorry, we'll go to the regional invasive species management and control. This should be a really easy one. We have 2 contracted agreements to have this service provided. And no change to the requisitions. So I think if the board can approve that one,
Motion to approve.
I actually think we should increase it, but I'm looking at the overall budget and we haven't had a request from the societies for an increase or.
we haven't, and it's at the maximum.
I know.
So if we were to entertain an increase, we'd have to go and adjust the service establishment bylaw, and that wouldn't be in effect for next year.
Maybe something to consider for next year. I just think it's a very small amount of money and it's such good value for the money. You think that it looks good on us to run that program well?
And there's also the 5-year 25% increase allowable.
Yeah. Oh,
But I
yeah.
have to check on that.
Okay.
I'll bring that back.
Was it?
3 years ago.
It was originally 75.
Okay, so I have it moved by Mike and seconded by Vivian, and any other discussion on regional invasive species budget? No question, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Great, then we'll go to the land planning and zoning function. And Claire Dewar is here as well, answer any questions. So the 2025 fees and other revenue received were slightly below budget. And so I've reduced the budget for 2026. However, there has been a fee adjustment for some of the land planning fees. So, I don't know if Claire described the fee changes, so it was just for the advertising costs, is that right?
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, the development approval and information fees bylaw was updated in November to increase advertising fee costs and there, as well as to reflect the annual increase in fees across the board. So that would be one noteworthy aspect.
So I believe I'll review that revenue line and potentially increase it slightly. I'm not sure how much. Just because I want to stay realistic again. We never know what's coming down for rezoning or applications in the next year. Okay. The surplus carry forward into 2026 is drastically reduced, so the surplus into 2025 was 267,000. And now the surplus carried over to 2026 is 9,000. So that is really what's driving the increase in taxation right now. So we did spend the whole operating budget in 2025. But now that is a revenue item that needs to be recouped through taxation or through the surplus reserve. There is a surplus reserve for planning at 161,000. And 2 months of operating right now is 172,000, but again, we can still pull in these light years from the surplus. And then when we have more revenue years, we can refund it back into the surplus. So that's an option. Utilizing 100,000 from the operational surplus would update the taxation to $9 per 1 million versus $11 per 1 million. So it's not a huge change, but it is something. Okay.
That big jump is, just as, to make sure I'm understanding correctly, is the result of we have drawn down reserves? Or have we changed service levels? Is there more staff? Like, that's a big jump.
No,
What's
so
the big change?
basically, in real, like if we spent every budget, there
Yeah.
would be no surplus carry
Yeah.
forward, right? So historically, there has always been a surplus carry forward, but this year there is not. So it is a big shift between the revenues, where we're under revenue now because we have to pull it from taxation in order to build that same level of revenue. So the 267,000 that was in 2025 is gone, like it's been spent.
Maybe I'll ask it this way. So what is the largest couple factors in why land planning and zoning has jumped so much?
I will
Can we,
bring it to the CAO.
we
for
recess this
discussion.
actually? Let's just hold on. Recess and close?
Let's recess for a second and we'll
Yeah.
decide. We do have a lot of people in the room, so we'd have to.
Yeah.
Recess.
Recess.
Okay. That's now back on. Okay, so under section 91D of the community charter, I would like to make a motion that we close this meeting to the public so that appropriate questions about security and cybersecurity can be asked as is delegated by the community charter. So could Jack moves, seconded by Armand, all in favor, any opposed, motion